Hey family, and as usual, black love, black pride, and black power. You have to know yourself, to love your people. And what was that thing I said from that last video? Um, don't get mad, get right. Which is going to be another quotable from this video. I'm going to jump right into it. Discipline versus abuse. This is a very serious topic that needs a lot more attention than what I am going to give it. So don't be surprised if I do more to touch up on this in the future. But I'm gonna just get right to the nitty gritty. African people across the diaspora have been conditioned in the arts of abuse by the masters, no pun intended, of abuse. We notice higher abuse rates in locations where there is more black people, less colonizing people, and strong religious convictions in places like the Caribbean, the States, and very, very religious parts of Africa. I think the reason why there's not often a strong presence of European people in these areas is because they already did their colonizing, they got all they could get, they've already trained us on how to continue to abuse ourselves, and then they get the hell on because they really don't want to be around it. It's not serving them anymore. But anyways, here are some signs to let you know when you have crossed into abuse territory. Number one, the object of the punishment is to humiliate the victim. That's not discipline. That is abuse. That is psychological abuse. Oftentimes, this also results in physical abuse. This is not discipline. Number two, you find it necessary to punish the victim simply for disagreeing with you or questioning your poor behavior, i.e., say you smoke cigarettes or your dating choices or your contradictory and hypocritical religious convictions. Anytime someone questions you, instead of getting mad, get right. Don't automatically consider them insubordinate and decide to abuse them. Check yourself and do better. Number three, you are jealous or angry with the victim. We see this oftentimes with mothers who have beautiful daughters and they don't like the fact that their daughters are getting a lot of attention, so they can be abusive in many different forms. We see this also with parents who haven't accomplished much but they have children that are excelling in certain areas. We can see the abuse manifest in many different forms. And those are just a few signs to let you know that you've crossed into abusive territory. Abuse labeled as discipline can come in many forms: verbally, physically, various types of sabotage, psychologically, emotionally, and I mean, you name it. But no matter how you name it, it's got to stop. Yeah. So here are some ways to check yourself to make sure you're acting out of love and righteous discipline instead of anger and evil abuse. Number one, you lead by example. It is easier to listen to someone who practices what they preach, and it's a lot easier to understand that they are coming from love and experience versus hypocrisy, jealousy, hate, and all these other things that people tend to come at people with when trying to discipline them in the form of abuse. Number two, the person has done something undeniably and unjustifiably wrong. If you cannot logically, rationally, and realistically justify the actions of someone's being incorrect, then maybe you should not be trying to discipline this person. However, a child steals something. There is plenty of ways to logically and rationally explain to this child and let this child realize that this action is a poor action, or say, I don't know, because this isn't just parent to children, this is grandparents to grandchildren, this is brother to sister, sister to brother, this is all different kinds of relationships. All these things I'm talking about here can be applied to all different kinds of black relationships. If you get, your man cheats on you, that is undeniably and unjustifiably wrong. So there are ways to get that point across, and your reason for wanting to have a disciplinary action to counter his actions is very justifiable and understandable. If you are coming at somebody irrationally, and you're coming at somebody and with emotions and psychological issues that have nothing to do, that have no pragmatic or practical or realistic tangibility, then you are not justifiably and righteously upset with this person, and you're not justifiably or righteously in a position to try to discipline this person. There is a difference between someone doing something unjustifiably and undeniably wrong versus someone doing something that has a gray area in which it's up to both you and that person to find out, when that gray area turns black and when that gray area turns white. And there's also there's a difference between someone doing something wrong and something you don't like. Don't pop your child in the mouth because they say that they don't want to believe in Jesus. That's not unjustifiably and undeniably wrong. That's something you don't like. Don't pop your child in the mouth, or don't have the urge to discipline somebody because they don't like the same thing you like and they verbalize it, or they don't agree with you in some way. That's not discipline, that is abuse. So that needs to be undeniably and unjustifiably wrong. And you have to be able to prove that rationally, logically. You've got to be able to make sense of it, because telling someone something's wrong and it's really just something that you disagree with or you don't like, most people, especially children, they catch that quick and they're gonna say, but why? Or that doesn't make sense, or but you said this, or what about that? And then it's just gonna get you more upset because you know you wrong in the first place for having the urge to, or exercising abuse on this child for simply thinking. Number 3, the punishment must fit the crime. If you want to stay in discipline territory and not go into abuse territory, make sure the punishment fits the crime. If a little girl takes her sister's doll and then accidentally breaks it, and the sister had already said you can't play with it, you do not beat that child half to death with what's left of the doll. That is not discipline, that is abuse. More justifiable form of discipline to fit the crime done is to give one of the other child's dolls to the other daughter and let that daughter do what they may. It is fair, it is just, and we have to get back to that. That was number 4. Number 5, most likely if the person knows they are wrong to begin with, they'd accept the punishment, or upon you bringing to light the wrong, then their action, or the wrong of their actions, then they will probably accept the discipline as well. Most times, we know when we deserve to be disciplined. We know when we fucked up, and we know that there are ways to correct it, or that whatever karma comes from it, or whatever discipline comes from it, we're most likely prepared for and willing to accept. Or if we've done something wrong that we did not quite realize was a bad thing, once someone breaks it down to us and shows us undeniably and unjustified, that what we did was undeniably and unjustifiably wrong, then we'll be like, oh, damn, yeah, I fucked up. I get it. I take what's coming. That is just generally how most people, and I'm talking about black people here. We got a lot of delusional non-black people out here. That's just how most people work. When they know they're wrong, they take whatever's coming to them. You only really see the pushback when people either A, don't realize that they're wrong, or B, they know they're not wrong. And that's one of my major issues when dealing with my family. When I know I'm right, and people keep coming at me like I'm wrong and trying to find different forms of disciplining me, as if I'm wrong, when I know for a fact that I'm undeniably and justifiably correct in my stance, that's when you get a lot of headbutting and clashing and resentment build up and distance in relationships and things like that. And we don't need any more of that. We need to be able to come together, not push each other apart, especially when it's simply a matter of people needing to swallow their egos and their prides and to get some sense. And number 6, you come to the person with understanding and love. I have been a victim of abuse but I have also been a recipient of discipline. So I can clearly see the difference in the two. I know the difference between me getting this whooping because my father is upset and other things that have upset him as transferred into this small action I've done that's warranted a bigger punishment than necessary. And I know the difference between me doing something wrong and me knowing I'm wrong and my father talking to me and probably whooping me at the same time. But you can tell the difference between when it comes from love and understanding and compassion and wanting to correct your poor behavior, and when it's coming from anger and upsetness and things that you have not quite dealt with, and other things can creep into it as well. People come home mad at the world and take it out on people around them. You know, my baby sister does this all the time. She'll have a bad day at school, or, you know, everybody else will be getting on her nerves. I come home after not being around for weeks and I'm like, oh, hey, baby sis, how you doing? Love you, what's up? Hugs and kisses. And it's just straight attitude. And I didn't do anything. We have to make sure that before we go and try to discipline somebody, that one, we're not bringing outside things into and channeling them into this one person, and two, that this person is deserving of the discipline, all of the discipline that we are about to give them. So my final kind of remarks would be, if you are angry and harbor resentment of any kind, you should probably wait until you have calmed down and before choosing to discipline somebody. Get your life, reassess yourself, have a cup of tea. You come home after a long day of work and the kids have trashed the house, and on top of that, you've dealt with, you know, your boss being on some BS and your coworker keeps stealing your stapler and traffic was terrible. Before you go off on the kids and peel everybody's hide, take a moment to yourself, grab that cup of tea, sit in the corner somewhere, woosah, decompress, then reevaluate your home situation and respond accordingly. And that's just an example of, you know, parents, children, but just with anybody you're dealing with, before you go off, before you are sitting here overboiling with these emotions of anger and resentment and frustration and this, that, and the third, and then you respond irrationally or overboard compared to what is warranted or justified, please do yourself a favor. Chill pill, cup of tea, maybe even smoke a little bit of weed if that's what you need to do before going and trying to discipline somebody. Tough love is okay, but abuse is not. And we have been way too abusive to each other as a communal whole for too long now. And, you know, the cycle's got to stop somewhere. So if you have listened to this video and you realize, oh shit, might be abusive, do something about it. Don't get mad, get better. Or don't get mad, do better, you know. And if you are somebody who is looking forward to maybe having children in the future, or you want stronger, better relationships with people, make sure you listen to these things and stuff too. There are many different, it's not no longer abuse just because the person's not your child and they're your sibling, or they're your parents, or they're your friends, or they're your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever. It doesn't stop it from being abuse. And abuse is not only physical, you know. There's so many different kinds of forms of abuse out there, and we're not stupid. We know this to be the case, you know. But with that being said, family, hopefully you've learned something and take something away from this. Per usual, Black love, Black pride, Black power. You got to know yourself to love your people, and don't get mad, get right. Peace.